The two themes of this year's pledge campaign are ordinary people working together to achieve extraordinary results and saying yes when you are asked. And I want to give two examples of when I said yes and ordinary people came together and achieved extraordinary results. 7 years ago, I was asked to join the team that oversaw the brownstone restoration of this church, and I said yes. Some of you may remember there was a trailer, a construction trailer, parked on the corner of 5th and 55th for many, many months. In fact, 18 months it sat there. Every Tuesday morning, ordinary congregants and staff people from this church, Dale Hansen, Doug Bennett with his construction knowledge, Derek Madalena and I met in that trailer with the architects and with the contractors who were going to do the work. We discussed what had happened in the prior week, we discussed the issues that were raised, and we discussed the next steps that we would have to take. There were challenges. The first challenge was that the people who were hired to do the scaffolding were slow, causing delays for the rest of the project. Then one of the scaffolding workers hit a water pipe high up in the tower, and it burst, and water came streaming down through the southeast stairwell of this church, causing extensive damage. Then, towards the end of the project, we realized that the slate we were going to use to cover the roof of the north tower could not be properly secured and would cause a hazard to those walking along Fifth Avenue. And we certainly didn't want that, so we had to switch to copper. All of these challenges were met by this group of people, and the decisions we made, we knew, were guided by God. He was a member of our team as well. In January of 2017, 18 months after we started, the extensive scaffolding was brought down to reveal our beautiful church, looking very much the same as it did before the scaffolding went up. But now it was strong, it was solid, there were no longer any falling rocks coming off of it, and there were no longer any incursions of water. It is, to me, amazing that this was accomplished here on a busy intersection in the heart of Manhattan. It was truly extraordinary. The second thing I wanted to talk about was a few years ago, I was asked to be a member of the live streaming task force. And again, I said yes. And again, a group of ordinary members of this congregation and staff met. This time, however, we met over Zoom because it was the beginning of COVID social distancing. Jess Levine, a member of that team, was instrumental in identifying the cameras that we would need and the placement of those cameras. Ryan Jackson's extensive attention to detail ensured that the microphones were put in the optimal locations. And we hired a wonderful contractor to do the work. But still, there were challenges. Where are we going to put the 4-foot-high lights in this sanctuary while retaining the aesthetic of the space? Derek Madalena, who is our director of facilities, I always say, it does the heavy lifting on these projects. In this case, it was literal, as he took those lights and tried to help the lighting people put them up behind the grill work in the two corners of this sanctuary. It could not be. We could not do that. Our architect then came up with the idea of building movable panels in the ceiling of this church. If you look in the back, you can see where the lights are. All right? And decided we could put the lights back there. These panels would close when they're not in use, and you cannot detect them. So we started on that, only to have a sharp-eyed contractor note that there was movement and shifting in the attic of this church. Another challenge, another delay, but we met that challenge by adding steel structure up there to support the church. As I look out at this sanctuary and I see cameras which are hardly detectable and microphones which are hardly noticeable, and then I look up and I see where the lights are now streaming and know that when they're not in use, doors will come down and it will be imperceptible for you to see where they are. And I know that every Sunday morning we do a live broadcast from the control room below the vestry. And I think all of this is extraordinary. These two extraordinary projects, were accomplished because ordinary people came together and worked and made decisions with God's guidance to accomplish these extraordinary tasks. But also very important is that we knew we had the support of this congregation to provide the financial resources necessary to complete these projects. And so during this pledge campaign, it's my hope that after prayerful consideration, all of you will decide to say yes and make a pledge so that the extraordinary things can continue to happen here at FAPC. Thank you.